Most of the pubs in Lancaster are purple-nosed and pitted with folk tales, real ales, grisly murders and ghost stories and all sorts of other booze-driven stuff. So me and Ginny Mackintosh thought we'd take a quick tour for the sake of Lancashire Footnotes, you understand, sampling some of their aforementioned real ales en route. We started with a quick half at the Grade 2 listed George and Dragon on the appropriately named St George's Quay. The George and Dragon, as grand as a little pub as it might be, isn't much to speak of in itself, but the little crooked house crowbarred into the terrace next door, when it's perpendicular, you've drunk too much apparently, is worth a mention. It's probably just a case of subsidence, which is what happens when you get old, as is the 1764 Richard Gillow designed Custom House, now the Maritime Museum, a bit further along. We downed a pint of insert name of local brew here, and then paid a visit to another Grade 2 listed establishment, the Three Mariners, just round the corner, where we downed another. Reputed to be the oldest pub in Lancaster, the Three Mariners dates from the 1600s, although there are rumours that an even older pub occupied the location in the 15th century. With its gravity-fed cellar, don't ask, we haven't got a clue either, where the beer is cooled from the rocks above, and its secret passage connecting the Three Mariners to Lancaster Castle, allegedly, the pub has certainly played its part in the town's long history. As a result, the place is lousy with ghosts, including a Jacobite soldier murdered here in the 1700s, often witnessed warming his toes by the fire or wandering aimlessly along the cobbled remains of Bridge Lane, a poltergeist in the cellar, three ladies who haunt the bedrooms upstairs, again, don't ask, we probably couldn't tell you even if we knew, and a weighty blonde in a large dress, possibly with a moustache because that sounds a bit transvestite to me, who haunts the women's toilets. We downed a pint of speckled hen, or witch's tit, or something with a stupid name anyhow, and staggered on to Castle Hill, where we discovered the 1688 Merchants, with its "this is an historic pub, if you bang your head on the low ceiling beams, it's your own fault for being bladdered" sign. The Merchants was originally a wine merchant's cellar, giving the Mariners a run for its money with its 3 tunnels, one of them, predictably, secretly connected to Lancaster Castle. There are so many secret tunnels connecting pubs to Lancaster Castle, it's surprising that the honeycombed Castle Hill hasn't collapsed yet. We sucked another pint of some inventively named local ale and stumbled on, somewhat circuitously, to the Royal King's Arms on Market Street. Not coincidentally, originally owned by a king, Louis XIV back in 1666. Edward VII, the Prince of Wales at the time, was also a frequent visitor to the hostelry, so much so that he had his own suite. His regard for the inn was commemorated in 1863, when a torchlit procession celebrated his marriage to Alexandra of Denmark, in which the innkeeper, Mr. Sly, offered free roast oxen and drinks to the poor. Apparently, Charles Dickens stayed here with his literary mate Wilkie Collins of the Moonstone and the Woman in White fame. In 1857 they included the hotel in their not exactly well-known co-production of The Lazy Tour of Two Idle Apprentices. As you might expect, the Royal King's Arms has its own resident ghost, Edward Hardman, cobbler. That was his profession, not my personal comment on this bit. Hanged for poisoning his missus. Dickens fictionalised the ghost in his short story The Ghost in the Bride's Chamber. He also wrote a TripAdvisor review for the Illustrated London News in 1868, calling the Royal King's Arms a good old inn established in a good old house, where they give you a bride cake without the trouble of getting married, or knowing anybody in that ridiculous dilemma. Or something. We downed another couple of pints with famous grouse chasers, scribbled some illegible notes on the reverse of a beer mat, and caught a taxi to the John o' Gaunt, a couple of houses up the road. Named after that bloke in Shakespeare, aka the Kingmaker or something, The John o' Gaunt was granted licence in 1871. There's not a lot else to add to that, so we had a couple more bevies and headed for the Golden Lion on Moor Lane. The Golden Lion was famously, or rather infamously if you prefer, the final watering hole for prisoners being escorted to their execution on Gallows Hill, being it traditional to stop off for a quick one en route before dancing the hemp fandango. The Pendle witches allegedly had their final knees up here. One abstinent prisoner refused his own last order, being teetotal and what have you, continuing onwards instead to his death. A pity, because if he'd have stayed for the customary drink, he'd have still been alive when his pardon arrived by courier, who says that drinking's bad for you. The Golden Lion dates from the 17th century and offers a fine selection of ghosts, our favourite being the nun, Blue possibly, who escorted the prisoners on their journey to the gallows. We had another 3 brandies followed by a Mackinson stout, before Jeannie Mackintosh, feeling a bit under the weather, started an argument with an old Tory playing dominoes and wrapped her Zimmer frame around his head. By the time we reached the Pendle Witch, we were 3 sheets to the wind. Jeannie Mackintosh now picking fights with anybody who looked at her pint. The Pendle Witch is another Lancaster pub dating from Tudor times, 1642 it's reckoned, so called because the Pendle Witches, who feature a lot in drunken Lancaster folklore, walk straight past it. Not as exciting a claim as the Golden Lion, perhaps. But Jeannie Mackintosh was arguing with the barman over a packet of prawn cocktail flavoured crisps now, so it's academic anyhow. Naturally, the building is haunted. There's certainly been a few supernatural occurrences, like doors opening and closing on their own, admitted manager Chris Wastel in an interview once. Jeannie Mackintosh was pretty much Wastel herself at this point, unable to remove her Zimmer from where it had got jammed behind the Galaxy Quest fruit machine. We somehow managed to find our way to the toll house on Penny Street, unsurprisingly once the Corporation Toll House built in 1901, for collecting levies from traders on their way to market. Jeannie Mackintosh had now decided that she was best friends with everyone and felt the need to inform them of this. We downed half a bottle of vodka that some tramp had left on the window ledge before ploughing on to the Water Witch, a favourite haunt of narrowboaters. Named after a passenger boat that once plied the old Lanky, the Water Witch was originally a stable block. Jeannie Mackintosh by now was singing Christmas carols at the top of her voice with the lyrics changed, annoying most of the customers until her Zimmer frame got caught up in a mooring hoop and she took a tumble into the canal.